This is 2004 Buick Rainier, 4.2 liter in it. It has just front AC on it, no auxiliary. Has a problem with no cooling from the AC. Find out why the AC is not working. Has 138,000 miles on it. And it has automatic climate controls. Well, this pecking in here may be a concern, and the vehicle isn't putting out any air conditioner. It's secondary, and more than likely there's a problem out in front. And just a general easiest way to tell, with the vehicle running and the AC on, the temperature controls down to as low as possible, 60 degrees, whatever they're set at. If this line isn't cold to the touch, then the compressor is likely not running. So I found out to be the case that the compressor isn't running, and that would be the center part, and those raised up circles weren't rotating with the outside pulley. Now that's got a pretty big air gap in it, and it's got 138,000 on it. It's seen a lot of rounds. So the easiest way to see what was happening, I touched a piece of metal to the front of the compressor and see if it's magnetized, but that'll only actuate while it's running. And if you're not used to this stuff, sticking metal objects down around the fan while it's rotating can be very hazardous to your health. So the only way to actuate that clutch without it running is to go over and pull the fuse box cover off and find out which relays, the AC relay, which choose this relay 44 is the AC relay, which is clearly marked there, and go up to the cover, and the second one on the outer edge is relay 44, the big square. So come over to the box. If you lay the cover upside down, you see there's two relays here. It's 1 and 2, and then a fatter one below it. 3 relays. And if it has an option for the fourth, another relay, there's space provided for it, but this doesn't have that option. So anyway, so look at the relay, and 87 and 30 are the ones hooking the power. The hooks the 87 to the 30, or the 30 to the 87, whichever the case may be. And I believe that the 87 is the power supply, and the 30 is the load, which would be the AC clutch. And what that does is turn the clutch windings into a magnet to draw that plate down and to let it start spinning with the motor. And on the bottom of the relay is clearly marked an 87 in this corner and a 30 in the opposite diagonal corner. So with that 8730, I just stuck a couple metal clips down in there from a broken open cotter pin, and see if I got 12 volts on one side. Now the vehicle's not on or anything, it's just supplied battery power. So I've got 12 volts to it, and I already knew that because the clutch is becoming magnetized. It's just not pulling the clutch plate down. So, but for a safety factor, I'll take a 5 amp fuse, and this is a little deal to poke around with. If something goes wrong, this 5-amp fuse will blow before it tears anything up with any luck. So I just jumper these two across. They're diagonal. It matters. You don't want to put those in the wrong places or you'll start tearing the car up. But it'll spark a little bit, which is normal when I hook it up. If everything's making contact. And if the clutch is working, you should hear a clicking noise from the compressor, which I don't. But I'll leave this engaged for a minute. And the clutch should be sticking to the pulley, and it may do it cold and not do it hot too. But if you can move the center, then it's not working. Also, you can check and see if the clutch is actually magnetizing. By just laying a piece of metal, it'll stick to it. Just drawing a screwdriver to it. It's got a good bite on it, it's just not pulling the clutch plate down. I'm going to have to pull pretty good to get that off of it. See, it's holding the weight of the screwdriver up. So, now if I pry that over, it'll probably stick to it. And this clutch isn't really serviced separately. Yeah, it's not even trying to get over to it. So we're going to have to replace the compressor on it. It's really got a... Yeah, it drawed it over. After I helped it out, I can't turn the center anymore. Whenever I take the power off of that jumper, you'll see that gap open back up. But it won't go back together. Oh, it's working now. That's what it's supposed to do when you apply the jumper, but it's not happening all the time, just intermittently. And this clutch is worn out. I wasn't doing it before till I manually engaged it. And the cooling system will probably work now for a minute or two, but not long term. So to change the compressor, I have to hook a recovery machine up to these Schrader ports and remove the Freon out of it. And recommended to change the condenser, whether the compressor's failed or not. And this dryer bottle, and it'll come with the hoses, this hose and new O-rings. I'll have to take this overflow tank out, this air cleaner out to get to the, there's a Orifice tube underneath of it, and that'll have to be changed and evaporator flushed out, lines flushed out, any of them that stay on it. So got a little mess going here. And I've proven that the clutch wasn't actuating initially. I was full on power, so. And it really don't matter which way the relay goes down in there, because the pins are diagonal and they'll line up either way. So, I'll take the Freon out of it, and I'll go ahead and tinker with this actuating door, find out which one's them's bad, so I get the compressor, condenser, a dryer bottle ordered, and the appropriate amount of oil. For flushing the system out, the entire system holds 8 ounces of oil, and I'll be installing that later. But that answers why it's not cooling, and I'll be Seeing which one of the actuator doors is thumping in there. It's bad. One of them is. And now to address the air conditioning problem, I've recovered the Freon out of the system. You can take it to a garage that's got air conditioning equipment and have them recover your Freon. Maybe work out a deal for them to recharge it and pay them a fee, but get your Freon back, so you don't have to pay for it. But I took the air cleaner and the air cleaner cover off, and I took 13 millimeters out of the washer fluid tank and just dislodged it, and then took the overflow tank up out of there. It's got a 10 millimeter stud down there and 13 millimeter inside, and I'm going to start working on disconnecting the dryer so I can flush the evaporator out and start taking the condenser out of it. I'm going to go ahead and start working on the condenser. This expansion line's trivial, the dryer bottle's trivial. And start working on this harder stuff, and just essentially got to pull the headlights out. Just pull these locks up out of here on each side and start jerking the headlights out. And straight down, I have to take the clips, or fasten with clips on the corners. Stick a screwdriver in there and wedge them open. Get some more play in it, and it's gonna have a few more. Another one here in the middle and beside the middle on either side of the emblem. Pop those loose with a screwdriver. And once I get that clip out, there's a clip on top, pop loose 2 there, 3, 4, and then 1 on each corner, and get these around the middle on the lower part and get that grill loose. And that's what the clips look like on the back side. Be advised, some of the clips will want to stay in and have to compress them a little bit, pull them out, and push them back onto these plastic nubs. To get that out of the way. It's looking real good now. I went ahead and took 10 bolts out of this plastic nose piece. One down in the front of the fender, 2 on top here. Just pay attention to how the wires routed through the cover. This pretty much wire harness goes through each hole for the headlights. There's a bolt, push pin in the center, another bolt. Took the hood latch retaining the hood rod, prop rod bracket off. Another bolt, and the wire harness routing for this side. And that's made this pretty loose. I just have to be careful about, somebody's already chipped the paint up here before, but be careful about slipping it out from underneath these plastic legs and not chip the paint up on the front of it. I'm just going to roll that plastic out, so I'll slide it out from underneath of these front cover flaps or legs, whatever. And I noticed that there's a battery cover vent. Needs to seal off the battery, and then there's a ambient temperature sensor. Needs unplugged up underneath of the plastic part at the end of this brace. Just pop that clip off of that. That's looking pretty good now. I'm gonna go ahead and take this one single bolt out of this hood latch support down on the front metal frame, and I'll take these 2 bolts out of this upper cross brace, and take this battery hold down strut off, 10 millimeter, and these are 13 millimeters. There's 4 of these holding this top part on, and there's a 13 millimeter down there holding the support brace up, and there was probably originally a 10mm or something holding the support to the battery, and probably loosen that up or take it on off of their other 10mm. And I'll give a nice clear open view to the sky to lift that out of there without running into these connectors holding the wire harness in place, or retainers, and some overspray. And then all I have to do is start taking the lines loose from it and take these two 10mm off each corner of the condenser. Be advised, the front holes on each side of this upper support brace has little sleeves in it, and don't lose those. Right in the front here, there's none in the back. I lifted that cross member off of there, and it's got the other sleeves are underneath of that cross member in the back. And I'll just go ahead and stick the bolts back in there to keep everything in place. And I just need to take this air conditioner line nut loose here. There's another one on this side. Break that nut loose. And I've already got these tins cracked loose. Okay, the condenser is loose from the radiator without incident. Pop the lines off, and likely you'll see some dye down in there if somebody's been troubleshooting them before. I'm not beyond saying I ain't seen it in factory stuff. And a lot of times you'll find city trash, and you want to get that cleaned off before it eats a hole in the radiator, and there's a bunch of it down there too. Blocking, you really can't gauge how deep that is, but eating on the radiator in the bottom. There's some foam fell down in there. That's not as much as I usually see in them though. City trash or country trash, leaves and same plastic bags and everything in there, interfering with the cooling action. But it should be free and clear to navigate around these holes. Just fish it around one side and then the other. This condenser is kind of a pain if you're not real careful. A person might be ahead to take all of these wire holders loose across here so they don't damage the new one going in. But it's coming up out of the right side first. Finagle this around this metal bracket, get enough clearance over here, and then get this end up, and it's coming up out of there, so it's free and clear to navigate now with any luck. Right there. And finally, fishing it straight up and down, feed it down this pipe here, and lift it out, and it's free and clear to navigate. Got a big gash in it now. I went ahead and stuck caps on the lines while I was fooling around, knocking them around, and moved that line up on top of the support. And caps to keep the dirt out of them, because I'll be reusing those lines after I flush them anyway. And if you get around to it, shut back all of this trash out from in front of the radiator, and whatever it takes to clean that off of there. Don't want that blocking the radiator, and wouldn't hurt to run a light brush over the fins. Probably should put a new radiator in it while it's this far down, because these will start leaking on you. I went ahead and separated the high pressure line from the expansion tube, and got a hold of take a pair of needle nose and get a hold of this orifice and screen and pull it out. Now this is directional, it has to go back in the exact way it comes out or you'll have a problem. It's actually wider in there to accommodate this thing back in there. But that's where the magic happens, is in that tube there, pretty much. But if you got a bunch of metal particles, you're definitely going to need to flush the system. This one's pretty clean, although it's got standard wear darkness to it. I don't see any chunks in it. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, I guess. But we'll save that guy. I'll put him up a little bit. Mouse over the video and hit the circle I to continue to the next part of the video.